Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're actually setting the stage in a majestic, divine realm known as Tushita Heaven. Imagine, for a second, standing at the absolute ultimate vantage point, looking down at human psychology and behavior. That's exactly the perspective we're taking today. We are going to explore this through the eyes of Maitreya Bodhisattva. We're looking specifically at how he observes the Buddha and how the Buddha perfectly, absolutely flawlessly, tailors his teachings to fit the highly specific needs of different disciples, and does it all without ever burning out. Okay, let's dive right into this. We are unpacking the 7th century scripture, the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra, meticulously translated by the legendary monk Xuanzang. Now, I know, don't let that ancient title intimidate you, because what we're really unpacking here is an incredibly precise masterclass in mentorship, communication, and human psychology. It's a brilliant inside look at how a master observes an audience, gauges exactly where they are, and strategically customizes the message to maximize its impact. So, here's our agenda for today. 1. Maitreya's view, Supreme Master. 2. Observation, 5 types of minds. 3. Tailoring, 2 teaching modes. 4. Intervention, 4 precise guides. And 5. Perfection, teacher-student synergy. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Maitreya's view, Supreme Master. Imagine Maitreya, Bodhisattva, watching the Buddha as he sits before this massive, diverse crowd of people, guiding humanity. What actually makes the Buddha the ultimate educator? Well, it's not just what he says. It's his internal state while he says it. The crucial point here is understanding the Buddha's absolute superpower, which the text calls the supreme guarding of the senses. Think about how exhausting it is to teach, to manage a team, or parent a kid, right? We get super invested, we get frustrated, we accidentally pick favorites. But the Supreme Master has this ultimate ability to care deeply about a student's progress and guide them perfectly, but without ever forming those exhausting emotional attachments. They remain completely unpolluted by personal love, hate, or frustration. It's pretty amazing. Which brings us to Section 2, Observation, 5 types of minds. To teach effectively without getting frustrated, you first have to know exactly who is sitting in front of you. And what's truly fascinating here is how relatable this ancient psychological profiling is for any modern teacher or manager today. The scripture identifies 5 types of disciples. First, you have the righteous, who just always do the right thing. Then the slacker, who is always avoiding the work. Then you've got the inconsistent ones, those who try but fail, or those who act poorly but, occasionally surprise you. And finally, the mixed, who are just this complicated blend of the whole shebang. Honestly, if you lead a team or manage a classroom, you likely recognize every single one of these personas. And notice the master's internal reactions: pleased, displeased, or a mix of both. Now, wait a second. You might be thinking, I thought the master was supposed to be completely detached. This is a really vital distinction in the text. Feeling pleased by a great student or displeased by a slacker is just a natural, immediate reaction to the situation. But a true master doesn't let those passing reactions calcify into toxic emotional baggage. They don't let displeasure turn into a grudge, and they definitely don't let pleasure turn into blind favoritism. They observe, they react appropriately, and then they just let it go. Moving right along to Section 3, Tailoring, 2 teaching modes. Once the master has accurately profiled the room and stabilized his own emotional state, it's time to deliver the lesson. This perfectly illustrates how the Buddha tailored his approach to the specific disciple. The text outlines 2 highly effective teaching modes: analytical speech and direct speech. Analytical speech is super active. It's kind of like a Socratic debate. The teacher uses rigorous logic and questioning to interrogate the students' doubts and actively dismantle their confusion. But if the audience is already quiet, completely receptive, and their minds are settled, the master switches gears to direct speech. This is a straightforward, uninterrupted download of profound truth. As they say, you don't use a hammer to break down a door when it's already wide open. Okay, let's get into Section 4, Intervention, 4 precise guides. But what happens when the student is really struggling? Like when they're actively breaking the rules, losing focus, or just totally lost? The text describes 4 specific methods the Buddha uses to gather and correct his students. Think of this as a personalized intervention toolkit for correcting human behavior. They escalate in intensity and focus, perfectly tailored to exactly where the student is failing. Let's actually break these down, because you'll see how beautifully they map to modern leadership. Step 1 is private instruction. So this is gentle, quiet coaching away from the group, akin to a supportive one-on-one meeting. Now, if the student violates a rule, we escalate to Step 2, lawful reprimand. The master directly and sternly calls out the bad behavior, setting a formal boundary. But, and this is absolutely crucial, it's done completely without malice or anger. From there, the focus shifts inward. Step 3 is for the internal struggle, calming thoughts. If the student's mind is wandering toward worldly desires, the master teaches them specific meditation and focus techniques to quiet that internal noise. And finally, step 4 is constant listening. To prevent a relapse, the student has to be kept in an environment where they continuously hear the truth. It's all about building long-term, sustainable habits.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Perfection, Teacher-Student Synergy.
We've seen the observation, the tailoring, and the interventions. Now, let's explore the ultimate goal of all these perfectly timed methods. What does success actually look like in this ancient framework? Well, the text describes two halves of perfection. First is the perfect master. A perfect master achieves a dual victory. On one hand, they're entirely altruistic, driven purely by compassion to guide others out of suffering. But on the other hand, they are self-benefiting. Now, context is key here. Self-benefiting does not mean selfish. It means the master successfully protects their own pristine mind. They maintain that supreme guarding of the senses we talked about earlier, ensuring they don't become emotionally contaminated by the heavy burden of teaching. The second half of this synergy is the perfect disciple. Because, let's face it, a true student doesn't just sit there and memorize the words. The text stresses that they must move beyond language and actively transform their reality through practice. Furthermore, the perfect disciple possesses supreme ambition. They refuse to settle for just feeling a little bit better or making minor life improvements. They take monumental action, aiming only for the absolute highest state of enlightenment. The master provides the perfect map, but the student still has to walk the road. Zooming out for a second, we've covered a ton of ground, from profiling 5 types of minds to executing precise behavioral interventions. But it all really circles back to this incredibly practical question. How does a teacher, a leader, or a parent do all of this without completely burning out and getting exhausted? The answer is really the core takeaway of this entire explainer. It's the paradox of profound mentorship. You achieve it by embracing the role of the unattached observer. You have to care completely and unconditionally for the student's ultimate liberation and growth, but you must simultaneously let go of your own ego's need for their immediate success. You offer the perfect teaching, completely tailored to their specific mind, and then you just detach from the outcome. As we wrap up this exploration of the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra and Maitreya's view of how the Buddha perfectly tailored his methods, I want to leave you with this thought. Look at the relationships in your own life, at work, at home, in your communities. Are you stepping up to be that perfect, active student who transforms words into reality? Or perhaps, are you ready to cultivate the profound mind of the ultimate unattached teacher? The playbook has been written. The rest is up to you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.